welcome to this video log with me, Wayne, from SwimCycleRunCoach. Well, I've been away for a few weeks, and in those few weeks I've been off in Cape Verde. Hopefully I've still got a bit of a tan. Fantastic over there. 26 to 30 degrees all the time, and the water temperature was about 24. So I had a great time whilst I was gone. But I didn't do any video logs whilst I was away. However, I did start thinking about camps, because we're obviously having a camp in February, and I thought, well, how do people judge what type of camp might be right for them? How do people look at the programs that are available and say, okay, that's the one I should particularly go on? Because there are quite a few camps around with some reasonable coaches. As far as I can tell, there are really three different types of triathlete. The first type of triathlete who wants to go on a camp will be the type of person who wants to really learn exceptionally good technique in all three disciplines. They're more concerned about correct sighting, correct stroke mechanics, about running properly and learning how to do the drills they need to do when they get back to the UK. They're not so worried about the distance they're going to do. They're more worried about how they're going to do it and how they're going to learn to train properly when they get back to the UK. The second person might be someone who wants to really push themselves to the limit, but also would like to concentrate on technique on things like swimming. They're normally weaker on swimming than other things, so they would like to major on that, but get the miles in and hurt themselves a little bit so that they can say that they've really been on a camp and they really feel tired at the end of the day. The third type of the person is just the type of person who wants mile after mile. They're not so much worried about swim technique or run technique. What they want to do is get the absolute max miles in on the bike. They want to really hammer the run so that they feel at the end of the day, probably at 9 o'clock, they're ready to absolutely collapse. Swimming is a secondary focus, and also a secondary focus is their technique. Now, whatever type of triathlete you are, you actually want to know that when you arrive at a camp, it's going to deliver what you want from it. We're going to look at two different structures, and we're going to look at the Triathlon Coach camp that they do in Club La Centa in Lanzarote, and we're going to look at our own Cape Verde camp and see the difference in structure and what you might want to look at when you look at someone's camp and see a structure that might suit you or might not suit you, so that you can tell and actually judge when you're trying to book a camp that, hang on a second, that is going to deliver what it needs to. So here we are looking at the Triathlon Coach website. We've actually ripped this off onto Dreamweaver, so it's not quite as you would see it necessarily on the internet. But workshop objective, they don't hide this. It's a big week on the bike plus strategic swim run sessions. And you can see as you go through the week, day one, obviously, if you can get a ride in, you do, just to loosen the legs. But apart from that, there's nothing, because you don't know what time you're going to arrive necessarily, and people are going to be arriving from different places. But as you look through the week, you see a 45-minute swim, 45-minute swim, no swim on that day, 2 runs. But you've got 3-hour bike ride, 4-hour bike ride, 2-hour bike ride with 1 hour 45 of running as well. And as we go down even further, you'll see a 4-hour bike ride with a 45-minute swim and a 30-minute off the bike, 45-minute swim, 3-hour ride, 2-hour ride. That's a 5-hour ride in total on that day. Then you've got 45-minute swim, 4-hour ride, 30-minute run off the bike. All of that is set up to make sure that you get the miles in, and you also practice things like running off the bike with tired legs. What you don't get in that is a lot of analysis, a lot of form building. So if you're going to go on that camp, you're going to get what they damn well say. They're not hiding it from you. You're going to have a big week on the bike plus strategic swims and runs. And those strategic swims, some of them will happen just before a bike ride. Otherwise, they'll just be specifically getting the miles in the pool after a warm-up. Okay, so here we are with the program for February's camp for swimming, cycling, running. And you can see that we structure it completely differently. You can see swim, technique, open water, cycling, technique, run, technique, video analysis, time trials, a race, triathlon skills, and options for Ironman to add in the distance. But we're not looking to hammer your legs. The first day, apart from a 45-minute ride out to Madeira and back, is all taken up with skills and technique. A little bit of time trial here, but other than that, it's all skills and technique. And that program tends to run throughout the week. And you can see we've got a hill climb, we've got intervals, and we do have 2 long rides, but one of them's a brick, which means we run off it, so we're teaching you that type of skill. There's other elements such as a skill section here. We do a lot of videoing to see how, you can see 2 sections of videoing there, where we're looking how your form's progressing over the week. And what we're trying to do is teach you how to train and teach you good form. We've even got a mini race here, which we'll be doing on the final day, so that everyone rounds everything off and puts everything into practice. A completely different kettle of fish to the triathlon coach. Okay, so there we have 2 completely different styles of camp. One is looking to get the miles in, having a minimum amount of swim training, very little in the way of video analysis, and very little on form. Whereas the second one had a lot of video analysis, a lot of structure, a lot of looking at your own form in the 3 sports, but slightly less in terms of the distance that you're going to do and the amount of hammering you are going to do to your system. Each taught you about a complete triathlon experience. So you did get the bricks in, you got the running off the bike, you got the swimming in. With one, I think you get slightly more of the swimming than the other, but that is the nature of the camp. The nature of the camp is that you want to structure your swimming on that particular camp. And if you don't, if you only want to cycle, then that camp probably isn't for you. Our camp, in other words. So, there you go. Hopefully that's helped you try and decide what sort of camp you want to go on and what sort of camp might suit you. Certainly, if you are going to go for a camp, I would suggest that you look to a coach or coaching group who has bothered to put their program online beforehand. That way you know that this isn't ad hoc. This isn't, oh, I'm going to pick what I want every day. This is a structured program that may change, but you know they're really thinking about what they're going to deliver to you when you're there. Okay, that's it for this week. Next week it'll be another topic. It's nearly Christmas. Probably be talking about that next week. Keep up.